What's going on, people? It's your man the YB back once again. Big shout out to my doggy. Which doggy is it? Ricky Chateri for coming through and boosting up the PayPal coins. Respect General. So we've got an update regarding Maximus Danelius Dubois. Dubois. And we know he's the IBF champion. And the IBF have now reaffirmed his orders. And here they are. Bash! The IBF have reaffirmed that Danny D can choose his next opponent as a voluntary defense if the AJ rematch doesn't happen next. Full list of contenders in the IBF top 15 he could fight. So basically the IBF has a rule where you have to fight someone in the top 15. This ain't the WBC where they allow you to fight Chisora, who's, well, at the time at least, I don't know. What had Chisora done before fighting Fury for the third time? Either way, they've ordered he need to fight someone in the top 15. Now, we can kind of break this down. Caballero and Bacoli, that's going to purse bids for the mandatory position of Dubois' belt. So you can almost forget about that. Bear in mind, again, that Dubois has a voluntary. So it makes no sense for him to really take one of these two. Let them fight out, and he'll take the winner on. You got Zang, Sanchez, Ajagba, Herovic, Chisora, Wallin, Wardley, Jared Anderson. Oh, you forget all these ones here. That's what you can forget. Forget Justice, never heard of him. Forget Vianello. Forget Anderson. Forget Wardley as well. I think Wardley needs that. Wardley needs to break into. So, for example, I'll tell you what will be good. Wardley versus Anderson. Right? That makes sense. Let's see if I actually watched that fight back yesterday. Bacoli versus Anderson. Anderson is not a punk. He was in there with a dude who's 285 pounds and who's been mining diamonds, conflict diamonds, since he was 3-year-old. Yeah, them people, listen. Let me tell you something now. Yeah, the same way I talk about the Chechen Dons, we talk about the Congolese conflict diamond mining Dons, baby child warrior soldiers. You understand, people? So it's a different type of strength. I watched that fight back. Anderson was giving it to him, and the same shots to rock everyone else. Bacoli just stood there. I can't understand it, if I'm honest. He just stood there. It's quite fascinating to watch. Anyway, but Anderson's not a punk, and he will let his hands go. He wasn't like AJ versus Ruiz 1, where Anderson got put down in the first round and then cacked his pants. He was trying to find a way to win, to be fair to him. He was just outmatched and outgunned. It felt like he was having a bad dream, where he just couldn't... He couldn't dent him. He couldn't put a dent. He couldn't get no respect from Bacoli. Nonetheless, though, Anderson was throwing his hands, and he does have some skill. So that, for me, will be a step up for Wardley. There's no doubt Anderson would deal with Fraser Clark. Fraser Clark's too chinny. I believe Anderson will knock Fraser Clark out. That's what I believe will happen. Anderson's good enough. So Anderson will be a step up in terms of power. Fraser Clark can't punch. And boxing skill as well. I think Anderson's certainly a better power puncher. So yeah, Wardley and Anderson, they should get on together. Wallin, forget about Wallin. I don't want to see... I never want to hear about Otto Wallin ever again. I don't ever want to hear about him again. After that AJ fight, don't forget, that was his big moment, right? This is where he could have completely changed his whole career. And he went in there and it was pathetic. I don't know how he's still in top 15. What's he done? Apart from getting knocked out by AJ. And if he quit against AJ, actually, he didn't get knocked out, he quit. So forget about Wallin. He shouldn't even be in top 30. So I don't want to see Wallin in there. Whilst on the subject, I don't want to see Wallin versus Wardley either. I'm not sure of the rankings. Let's have a look. IBF heavyweight. Because from Frank Warren's point of view, I mean, maybe it would be good for Wardley's development, if that makes sense. Wallin's 11, so yeah, maybe Wardley hasn't fought. Wallin would definitely be the second best person on his resume, you'd like to think, right? So maybe strategically, Wardley doesn't have a massive experience, so put him in there with someone like Wallin, get some rounds. I mean, no, I can't bring myself to say that, even if it does kind of make sense. I'd rather see someone like the Romford Bull or Moses Atalma in there with a Wallin. I think Wardley's... The point I'm making, Wardley's a step above Wallin now. Right? People like the Romford Bull and Moses Talma, that might be their next fight because they're completely green. But after knocking out Fraser Clark in that kind of fashion, you've moved past Wallin now. So Jared Anderson, we need to see Wardley in there with someone who can punch as well, because he hasn't ever really fought a puncher, and who can box as well. He's fought a chinny dude who ain't got no power. Fraser Clark is chinny and no power. That is the takeaways of Fraser Clark. Fact. That's just that's the truth there. I like him. Fair play to him. I like the way he make his booty pop. But come on now, you're no good. No good like that. Bottom line. And maybe Wardley go in there and it'll be. They both let their hands go. So Wardley could go in there and knock Anderson out. I think it's 50-50 though. If I'm honest, I think Anderson's good enough. He didn't get blown out, people. To get knocked down by Bacoli and not get blown out. And in a lot of them rounds, he was half winning them until he wasn't. So that's the fight I want for Wardley next. Anyway, back to the list. So we forget about Wallin, forget about Wardley, forget about Chisora as well. I don't know what he's doing there. What rankings he got? Chisora's number 10. Wardley versus Chisora. I think Chisora need to retire though. Honestly, I don't think Chisora's well. If that makes sense. Watching that Joe Joyce fight, yes, he won the fight. But I don't know. I think Chisora's had enough. I don't see what. Let's be realistic here. Is Chisora going to beat anyone else? No, he's not. And Wardley would hurt Chisora, I think. So I don't want to see that. Even though, in theory, it'll be an exciting fight. I want Chisora to sit down now. That's what I want. He's seen enough. There's nothing more he can really do now. You're in there with Joe Joyce, and he was, even after knocking Joe Joyce down, Chisora's going back to the ropes again, and he could only. It reminds me of Ali when he was finished. All he could do is go back to the ropes, and yes, it worked for him against Slow Joyce. But in there with Wardley, man, it'll be. I think Wardley would do Chisora some serious arm. Yeah, that's what I think would happen. Some serious arm. So forget about Chisora for sure. Herovic, do we need to see a rematch? No, the fight wasn't bad, if that makes sense. I'd be down with that. Is it going to happen though? Is it likely? Not at all. You just beat the guy, you just stopped him. But Herovic, well, he did a better job than AJ. Herovic was what I watched the fight back before AJ versus DeBois, and I give Herovic the first 5 or 6 rounds straight. Every single round, and it was quite by a margin as well. The first 5 rounds, I give him every single one. So he was in that fight. And who knows if the cut doesn't happen? Who knows? So I wouldn't mind seeing that, but it's not likely. A Jagba. Really, you should get again. You should have a Jagba versus Herovic. Or a Jagba versus Frank Sanchez. Frank Sanchez just got whooped by Caballero. So really, we're left with. Frank's coming off a quick loss, so it was soft to the body. Frank, soft to the body Sanchez. You can't put him in there now with Danny D. A Jagba. Who's he beat as well? So it's difficult. It should be an out-and-out voluntary, if I'm honest. But this leaves one person, essentially. Zang. How would I bet on this fight? Zang is a southpaw. But then again, Dubois got a nice right hand. Who's done well with Zang? Herovic was okay with Zang. I think Dubois hits harder than Herovic. And I'd back Dubois to beat Zang. Yeah? That would be one fight I wouldn't advise Dubois to go running forward in immediately. I'd be happy with Dubois boxing for a few rounds, because Zang's finished, even against Wilder. Wilder was doing nothing, and Zang looked great for 2 or 3 rounds, and he did nothing. Same as the Parker fight. He starts quick, and he runs out of steam real fast. There's no point. Joe Joyce showed that. If you try to run at Zang at the start, he's just too quick. He's really quick. I don't know how he's that quick for being that big, but he's too quick. So you don't want to run at him. That's the one thing you don't want to do. So if you're smart about it, I'd back Danny D to beat Zang. Is it the fight I want right now, though? I should do. Yeah, I've turned into a bit of a Danny Dubois homosexual. I just don't want to see no. Danny D, he gonna feel like, and I'd back him too. Zang's old, and today he's 41-year-old. We've just been slagging off Bivol for going life and death, getting punched up by 40-year-old Beterbiev. So really, at 28, 27-year-olds in the peak of your career, you should run through Zang, or certainly beat him convincingly. I don't think Zang's ever been down though. He's never been down, but his cardio is woeful. And I'm not going to lie, I've seen points where Zang looks like he could quit. And he weren't getting... Herovic was gassed as well in that fight. What happens in round 7 or 8 when Danny D's warming up? I can see Dubois stopping Zang. I really can. That's what I can see happening. But Zang would be undoubtedly... Well, I mean, Herovic... I had Zang winning that fight based on a knockdown, but Herovic was in the mix with Zang, and Dubois stopped him. Obviously, boxing triangles don't work like that. But yeah, man, maybe that's the fight we should call for. However, my reservations are, I need to see... Zang hasn't... Yeah, he beat Wilder, whatever. Yeah? Joe Parker's team have come out, and that's the rumours I'm hearing now. The rumours are Dubois versus Parker. If the AJ fight don't happen. Everyone's almost forgot about AJ now. I don't think he's taking that fight. So Joe Parker's trainer Andy Lee has declared they will be ready to challenge Dubois for the IBF heavyweight world title if the AJ rematch doesn't happen. Honestly, I don't know what Zhang's doing. Zhang said he's got a rematch. I think Zhang was pressed about fighting Bakoli, and Zhang said, I plan on initiating my rematch clause with Parker. That was like 2-3 months ago, so I don't know what he's doing. That's the fight that honestly, that's the fight that makes sense to me. Zhang Parker, run it back. So I feel like, people, let's not forget that as well. I've just realised, I can't sit here and say that Zhang can beat Dubois actually, because Zhang went life and death with Parker. And yes, Parker's improved, but it's still Parker. Yeah, and Dubois' jab, the same way Parker was outboxing Zhang, I don't see why Dubois can't. Is Dubois was quick? I don't know, but he can box, that's for sure. If you watch the early rounds in the Usyk fight, Dubois was probably losing 60-70% of them, but he was there or thereabouts in the boxing, faffing around business. So it's not like Dubois can't box. It's not like he has to just storm forward. He can hang there and be there or thereabouts in the early rounds. He can do what Parker's does. Kind of faff around. He could do that. So yeah, I'm backing Dubois to beat Zhang. Just go in there and last 4 rounds and you beat Zhang. That's what I think happens, because Zhang will be blowing out of his ass. Anyway, and Zhang isn't really known for the uppercuts either, although he is known for that left hand, and that is what Herovic and Zhang actually have a very similar they have a very similar right hand / left hand. It's like they don't load it up. It's like, it's just snappy, it's there. So that is a risk. Anyway, where does that leave us though? Dubois versus Parker, how do I feel about that? We'll take it. I think actually it's probably a better shout than the Zhang fight, being biased. It's an easier fight. Like, Parker going to knock you out. So it'd be a nice another middle fight, another builder fight for Dubois. Get him some more confidence. But I guess we'll take anything at this point. I'm trying to think. Normally I have all the answers. Normally I feel like, yeah, this is the one. This one, I'm not really rock hard for anything. That's probably why, hopefully, the AJ fight does happen. There's nothing that's really shouting out to me. Zhang has unfinished business with Parker. And I feel, yes, Parker beat Zhang, but Parker also has unfinished business. He got put down twice. So that fight should have been a draw, more or less. So they need to really sort that out. That's why, if, for example, let's say Zhang had just beat Parker in a rematch that was supposed to happen 6 months ago, then we could say, it's Zhang up next. Or if Parker beat Zhang in a second fight to lock it in, we could then say it's got to be Parker all day. I'm just not getting that feeling for no one. With that said, YB, how can you suggest AJ? What's he done? He's got knocked out. I guess it'll be for the clout, right? In that 5th round, people can shield the 5th round. I don't know. I'm actually intrigued to see what they come up with. Just don't let people, please do not let it be any of these man here. I wouldn't even mind it. Listen, if Dubois had to fight Wardley, I'll be down for that. But I don't think that's likely to happen. But don't let it be, I will say this now, do not let it be any of these two here. I do not want to see Dubois versus Chisora. We know Chisora has big sway in Saudi, but I do not want to see that. I'd watch it for the gladiatorial kind of, the gruesomeness of it, because people, Dubois would do Chisora proper harm in there. Proper harm. So please, Turkey, don't, I know Chisora sounds good. He'll say things like, come on, Turkey, put me in there with Dubois. But don't let him. I don't often say you need to protect some people, but Chisora is like a relic. Yeah, he's like a stately home. He must be protected by the state. It's like one of them big old dusty trees. You have to protect them ones. They're protected property. Do you understand? You need to protect him from, because he would trust me, 100%. Now, if Chisora wants to fight Wallin, yeah, that's probably a smart fight. That's the kind of fight. It's like the Wallin's a bit like Pulev, and he can't punch, and he's no good. That makes sense. That's the only fight really I can see here for Chisora. I don't want to see him near no one else, because he get hurt. But with DeBois, he'll definitely get hurt. Wallin versus DeBois, I just don't want to see Wallin. Listen, yeah, forget about that. He just got knocked out by AJ, so what's the point? He just quit against AJ. Anyway, essentially a circle jerk video. We're no closer to what should or shouldn't happen. But what we do know is Danny D wants to fight in February. I guess the thing is, he didn't take no damage. He just didn't. He took one shot in 5 rounds. Danny D would have took more damage in sparring, for sure. So there's no reason for him to be out for that long. He will have had October, November, December, January, 5 months. There's no reason for him to be out any longer than that. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm trying to think. What about the other belt? Who's knocking about? You got Fury and Usyk tying up the belts. Wilder? Nah, you can't bring him back in. He's finished. But you know what? If we're doing the fun fights, if there's no obvious challenger for DeBois, I'd throw Wilder in there. Get Wilder in there. A fun fight. Let's call it a fun fight. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Smash the like button, subscribe, like off the bell, 100%. There's no doubt about this one. People, stop it.